Thank you for auditing the always positive new music review show hosted by a French professor who's been having a weird week. I went on vacation with my kids, I caught some kind of cold. I've been a little bit out of it, and I haven't really had the time that I usually have to process all the new albums that came out. So, I let the algorithm decide. Well, not really. I let you decide. And I just put up on my community page, what should I review next? And the album that got the most votes by far was Raw Data Feel by Everything Everything. Data? Data? Raw Data Feel. Raw Data Feel? We'll see. I just got the most votes, and what you said about it really intrigued me. You know, you said I would have a lot to say about it. I always like that, and I do have a lot to say about it. I read a little bit about them. It turns out they are considered art rock. I am in. I love art rock. When it's well done, I love it. I think it's a great addition to music. It turns out they're from Manchester. I'm very happy about that as well. You know, I like second cities in general. You know, I used to live in Marseille in France, and I grew up in Boston. And I've been to Manchester. I like it. And then when I sort of realized it was kind of this like dystopian album about technology and things like that, I was even more in. So before I even listened to the album, I just happened to read somewhere something about this, which talked about the influence of artificial intelligence, AI, on this album. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call BS on this whole idea. Or let me explain. Okay? I totally believe the lead singer did what the lead singer said he did, which was use some kind of machine, give it a whole bunch of input, and then have it create lyrics. And I totally believe that 5% of the album is comprised of those lyrics, as he says. But the thing about AI, and this is a thing which I don't think people really appreciate, about anything that a computer helps us with, is fundamentally it's still a human choice. It's humans that choose to use the things that computers do for us. You know, like there's a fair amount of AI in my videos, you could say. How does that work? So you know me, I don't edit and I don't have scripts. I have notes. And I write notes on my notes app. Every single word I put into my notes app, the predictive algorithm, the AI in my computer and my phone, predicts what I want to say next. Okay? Thanks, buddy. I'll see if you guys can come over to the house for a little bit, and then I'll do the same stuff I need to get in my car for the weekend, and then I'm going back to the back of the town with my kids out of our house so we can get together for the next year. If you want to go to the casino and get some money from the casino, and then we can come over and over again for some reason, and we will get together for the first time. That's what happened when I just kept following the predictive text. That was what my phone created. I chose to say that. I chose that for comedic relief. Yes, the computer provided such a beautiful sentence as, if you want to go to the casino and get some money from the casino, then we can come over and over again. Yeah. But really, it's me who chooses. So when this guy, the lead singer, and I'm going to call him this guy because I don't remember his name. If you've never watched my channel before, another thing you need to know about me, between 2002 and 2018, I didn't pay any attention to music. Totally dead, totally asleep. So I missed their last album in 2020. So this is the first time I've ever even heard of Everything Everything, much less listened to Everything Everything. And it's a total shame because I love this band. I can already tell if I was 10 or 15 years younger, this band would have been my pajama jammy jam. I would have absolutely loved this band. But, I just missed them. So I'm going to be referring to the lead singer as that guy. You can tell me his name if you want in the comments. Higgs? I'm thinking Higgs might be his name. Last name might be Higgs. I don't know. So he says that he used an AI brain to write his songs because he didn't know how to talk about things, relying on technology like a crutch, and this modern loneliness where your only friend is your phone. Hey, I take my notes on my phone. I listen to the album on my phone. I record my videos on my phone. I understand what he's saying. But I think he's being coy here, or they're being coy with this whole artificial intelligence thing. Because really, I don't think it's about AI. I think it's about the human interaction with AI. And if you can allow me to go on a little bit of a tangent here, as the thunder rolls in Western New York, music is at the forefront of technology and humanity. And it has been for a long time, a very long time. I mean, think about how much automated music we listen to, or how much music that has automated qualities to it we listen to. You know, we use digital technology, but we don't watch automated digital technology on movies or TV. But music, how many songs have an arpeggiator? You just press one button and it goes up an entire scale. How many songs have a sequencer? How many songs have a drum machine? Each time, this is a computer that is aiding a human being, right? As a computer doing something that a human being either cannot or chooses not to do. So the machines have already won. But the thing is, the machines can never win as long as human beings are the ones who are choosing to do it. So I don't think this album is in that zone of just like, oh, everything is made by machines, man. I think it really is about that intersection between machines and humanity. Another review that I did of a band called Coin 2 years ago, before my channel blew up, if it did in fact blow up. It's like this great. It's one of my best videos. I'll include a link to it up there. Just make me happy. Let's get this puppy over 300 views, okay? At least the beginning, because I talk about this concept of digital cuckolding. Okay, so cuckolding is the category of pornography where somebody watches their partner having sex with a different person. There's some kind of like shame involved in that. Some kind of power dynamic involved. It's a whole complicated thing, which I'm not going to explain now. But music, and this is particularly true over the last 20 years, musicians are in a permanent state of digital cuckoldry. Like, you're a drummer and you can't keep up. You just can't keep it up. You can't 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. You drop the beat, re-record. Now we can pitch, now we can pocket, now we can fix it. Or we can have a drum machine. We can have just that stronger, more sure, more virile hand to just jump in there for you and make sure that your drum beat plays the way that satisfies that tempo. Your voice can hit the notes. Auto-tune, in all of its different forms, can satisfy that pitch. In a way, every musician, and I think this is part of what this album is about, every musician lives with a sex robot. I'll let you sit with that for a while. Every musician lives with a sex robot. What do I mean? So like, sex robot technology isn't that developed right now. As far as I know. Tell me in the comments if there's a sex robot you like. Jesus Christ, don't. Do not tell me. Why did I say that? I don't edit my videos. Don't tell me about sex robots. As far as I know, sex robots are not there yet. Okay, they're not particularly advanced. But within the next, 10 years, 20 years, we are going to have sex robots that serve both a male and a female, and I assume a non-binary function, to create maximally efficient sexual satisfaction. And when that happens, every human being, you, me, your mom, your kids, your uncle, the weirdos down the block, the normies down the block, we are all going to have this choice. Do we choose to have a sex robot for maximally efficient sexual satisfaction, or do we choose a human partner, whether that human being is a different person or ourselves? You see, musicians have that sex robot. They have all these tools at their disposal to make music, to have computer help them make interesting things, make good things, make things that work. And every time that they don't use one, it is a decisive choice. So I think that's part of what this album is about. It's about choosing to use technology, how we choose to use technology. A lot of it's about using technology to get over trauma, but I think musically, there's a real interplay here between organic musical creations and digital music creations. You know, we live in this kind of world of deep fakes and AI creations, and that's really where we're supposed to be. And that's why this album is so great. That's why I have so much to say about it. I'm not just going to talk about sex robots. As a first-time listener to this band, the singer, man, is a trip. Higgins? Whatever his name is. Boson Higgs. He's like if Chris Martin didn't suck, that's how I think I would describe his voice, because he often gets into sort of Chris Martin-y territories, but he never like goes to that kind of like stinky poppy feel. He's sort of like if like Tom York and Chris Martin had a baby. That would be a very confused baby, but that's how I feel. And really, the band that this reminds me most of is in fact Radiohead. You know, like certainly Radiohead with OK Computer ushered in the sort of modern era of this question of the interplay between technology and humanity, building on what Devo and Kraftwerk had already been working on for a couple of decades, right? But sort of taking in that art poppy space with this album, which is about technology, about humanity, about processing trauma through distraction, through technological distraction. And every song like is a great example of art pop. Like every song almost has a formula. I think there's a formula. I think it's intentional, where there's like a basic idea for a song, usually with a distinctive rhythm, and then at a certain point, an instrumental break will appear that has a large emphasis on human musical creation, that then is an excuse to bring back a repeated chorus. And the chorus is always repeated at the end, and the chorus is always catchy, and the chorus is always great, and it's always just how well produced everything is, and all these layers, and some of them are computers, and some of them are not. It's a head-spinning album in terms of how well produced it is and how engaging it is. It is also approved by my wife, the Dr. and Mrs. So I bought this album. Thank you to my Patreons for giving me money to buy music. I just ordered it off of Merch Bar. So what I do for every album is I like to have a stamp, an example song. Okay, so just click on the banana up there, and you'll hear the song Jennifer. This, I think, is the best example of this mixture of the human and the robotic, because it's sort of a straightforward, like indie pop song, but the way that he sings, the way that Tom York, Chris Martin sings here, is it sounds like his voice is an arpeggiator. Like it sounds like Jennifer, like each note hits so clearly and so distinctly. The cadence is so robotic. The pitch is so robotic. Yet the content is so rich with these bleak themes of trauma and loss with slight hints of optimism. It has kind of like a New Order soundscape, but it's just so gorgeous, and his voice is so gorgeous, and it sounds computery, but it's not. And these lyrics, Jennifer is on her way home, then she remembers her life is like a nightmare. Jennifer is on her way home, and then she remembers her life is like a nightmare. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I gotta do it. I'm gonna do the thing. I'm gonna do the thing where there's like 3 or 4 bands that I always refer to. But I can't help it. It's your fault for being from Manchester. This song is ridiculously happy. This is what the kids would call a bop. Just total bop. Completely happy. Rising melody. And the lyrics are depressing as hell. Does that remind you of any other Manchester band? Not just New Order. It's kind of Smithsy. I don't know. That's not even in my notes. I just came up with that right now. But that's because I think of Manchester and I just think of the Smiths. But just so many, but I mean, even these lyrics, right? Doesn't it sound like a Marcy lyric? Jennifer's on her way home, then she remembers her life is like a nightmare. Pain in the end is all in your memory, right? I'm sick, so that's why I didn't sing well. Normally I sing much better than that. That's not true. It's just a great, happy, sad, confusing song. And what a beautiful point. Pain in the end is all in your memory. It's true. Pain is in your memory. Like, unless you're feeling pain right now, pain is in your memory. Remember the first time, remember when you went through a divorce, or remember when your mom died? I remember those things. That pain is in my memory. It's not right here. And just the way these lines are repeated, all in your memory, it just gets stuck in your head. So again, like the Smiths, funny. It's just like this totally effective pop song that's dark and sad and human and robotic and all these things all at once while being very, very catchy. Just a great, great song. Just great. Now, I picked that song out as my favorite, but the whole album is that good. The opening track is called Teletype. Again, very kind of Radioheady there with Planet Telex, right? Anyways, very kind of glitchy Radiohead style beginning. Or maybe it sounds like the people that Radiohead sound like. Maybe it sounds a little bit more like, I don't know, Fortet or Aphex Twin or those bands that I don't know well enough. But just a cool kind of fractured arpeggiator here. Eventually a 4-on-the-floor bass drum is layered in. And then some of these great lyrics. What if I sell my soul and what if I don't? So that's a play, right? It's a binary question. But what a bizarre binary question. What if I sell my soul? What if I don't? That's great. Like I could spend longer than I'm about to spend thinking about that lyric and talking about that. It's theological implications that if you can sell your soul to gain the world, well, what if you do? But then what if you don't? And eventually this guitar comes in. The guitar is really the human voice on this album, even more than the human voice. The guitar is the intrusion of sort of humanity against this backdrop of largely automated or largely computer-generated sounds. What I love about here is this chorus. It sounds like it's spit out of a computer. Don't talk a lot like again, the way he sings, the way he's phrasing, he sounds like a computer. A beautiful breakdown in the bridge. His voice is just super clear over these weird computer sounds in the back, and then again it repeats the chorus because this album is a pop album. Are these guys like huge in England? Is this one of these things where they're like, like one of these bands where like everybody in England has this album and is talking about it, and like people in America just don't know? I don't know. I Want to Love Like This is the next song. And what I like about this is I read a quote from the band here where it was a challenge between the band members to create a 4-chord banger. And that's really what this is. This is just a 4-chord banger, a simple kind of upbeat dance song. And then we have an interesting line here. The opening lyric is, "Why don't you listen to your mom? She's old." So, why am I going to spend time with that? I did watch Fantano's review, or half of it. I didn't want it to spoil my thoughts. And he pointed out this line as a goofy line. I don't think it's goofy. I think it's important. Because if we're going into the lore of this album, and I am nowhere near the lore on this album. I'm not a super fan, so I wasn't, following the breadcrumbs or whatever. But he has said that the way that he used AI was to use the terms and conditions from LinkedIn, Beowulf, several 100,000 comments from 4chan, and the philosophy of Confucius. Put them all in a computer and have it spit out reams and reams of nonsense. Maybe he did that. I'm sure he did. But what he's really telling you is, what am I doing with this album? I'm going to be commenting on things like terms and conditions of LinkedIn, a very kind of alienating concept. I'm going to be commenting on the inhumanity of humanity on the internet. And I'm also going to be drawing from the tradition of English literature and Confucius. What is Confucius if not somebody who's obsessed with honoring your elders? I think this is a direct comment where he's saying you should listen to your mama, she's old, right there. Where I think this is a little trick, a little joke for us to sort of tie together and think as we listen to this album, which of the 4 components, LinkedIn terms and conditions, Beowulf, 4chan comments, or Confucius, which of these 4 elements are we talking about right now? But it's a dance jam, just great. I put this on this morning. I was eating my cereal. My wife came downstairs. She was going to have some strawberries. And I just cranked this up and I just did a little dance in my seat. It's that kind of song. Really kind of badass cut up arpeggiator part. And I want to spend one more second before moving on with the title. I Want to Love Like This. Demonstrative adjectives. That's the question. I'm a language professor. That is my full-time job. That's why I'm in my office. Well, I'm in my office because I have to do my annual report, which is the worst part of my job, but that's fine. I have to talk about what I've been doing. Sucks. It's okay. But I am a language professor. So, there's a couple different demonstrative adjectives in French. In English. This and that. So if he says, I want to love like that, he's implying he doesn't have something. If he says, I want to love like this, he's implying that he possesses the love that he is talking about. I'm telling you, this album can be seen as a really dark, sad, weird album. But there are these little glimmers of hope which just pop up at the corners at all times, which I think we need to focus on as well. But not on the next song, Bad Friday. A hilarious opening. It was a Friday night. It was a Saturday night, just over and over again. This confusion about was it a Friday or Saturday night. This does two things at once. The first thing it does is it's a commentary on party jams, because it's another party jam. Like the first three tracks on this are just party jam after party jam. Say party jam again. I double dog dare you. Party jam. But they are. So it's kind of about the banality of pop excess. The song is a little bit about, songs about Friday nights and Saturday nights and getting drunk and effed up and, oh, it's crazy. But then also it's about the desperation of the person who's singing. And I don't know, there's characters on this album. There's Jennifer and Kevin and different characters. Listen, I'm sure if you're like on the Everything Reddit and you're the kind of person who's super into this band, and I would be that person were I 10 years younger, so I'm not making fun of you, that has a special thing for you and that you're super into who Kevin is and who Jennifer is, and it ties into the Beowulf of the lions of the foxes of the previous necromancer. I get it, right? Okay. But, I just swear? No. But I find it much more interesting just to hear every single song as the person singing about his life. That's it. This is not about some character in the story. This is about somebody who is trying to process the trauma of a night out. Because what is a night out if not suffering brain trauma on purpose? But then it's tied in with these themes of abuse, which he talks about when he talks about the song, like how to get this blood all over me. Even kind of Peter Gabriel at times, the way it sounds. But I don't know, like it's just so like in it, like I can't place it. And this is maybe the thing that this album does better than anything else. It does that thing that AI imagery does, or deepfakes do, where you can't really place it. Like it looks like it's a person on top of a rock, but if you look at it in a different way, it looks like a coat hanger sitting next to an elephant. Like you can't quite make out what it is. Like, is this a banal pop song or is this a sad song about abuse? The answer is yes, it is. Oh, sorry, I had to turn off notifications on my computer. I choose to leave that in. This is a very human channel, by the way. It's part of the reason why I don't edit and why I don't have like title cards and stuff, is I want to be like a voice for humanity. Anyways, geez, man, what is wrong with me today? Maybe my favorite part of the entire album is the part where he says, I could never remember in the morning. He repeats it over and over again with a sound that is a acoustic recreation of the warning sound that a computer makes. Donk. Not like that nice little bing that I had there, but the donk. I can never remember in the morning. Donk. It's just this whole album does of just being so catchy and so well produced. Here's the challenge. I've compared this album to Radiohead and to well, basically just to Radiohead. I've compared, you can compare this stuff to a lot of things. Nothing sounds like this. I challenge you. I challenge you, my viewers. You tell me one song that sounds like this song. I can't think of it. There's like almost like African percussion and African guitar going on here with this different singing and everything's changing. It is an amazing, amazing feat. But there's something about this album where it's this amazing feat, but then again, like that deep fake thing, like you can sort of leave and be like, was that amazing? I think it was. The next song is called Pizza Boy. Now listen, I did minimal research on this album. I went to Lyric Genius, as I always do. I defend Lyric Genius. And I read comments about this. Nobody is mentioning the book Snow Crash, which to me is weird as hell. Snow Crash, if you've never read it, is a book by Neil Stephenson. It's a sort of satire / actual cyberpunk novel. It's a great read. If you've never read it, if you read like Ready Player One and you liked it, but you like are afraid to admit it, give Snow Crash a chance, because it's sort of in that kind of realm of just very accessible cyberpunk stuff. But it's a very disorienting book. And part of the reason it's disorienting is the primary character, whose name is Hero Protagonist. Do you know what his job is? This whole book about the intersection of technology and humanity and virtual worlds. Do you know what his job is? He's a pizza boy. Now, he's a pizza boy for the mafia. It's a very complicated book, but he is a pizza boy. So I think this is very clearly a direct reference to put us in the Neal Stephenson Snow Crash mode. God, I got to reread that book. I really enjoyed that. And so I think that's where he is here. And when you read about the descriptions of the song, obviously it's about consumerism and the emptiness of consumerism. This beautiful line, "I'll have a Coke, I'll have a Pepsi now." The simplicity of these lyrics is great. More clapping sounds, another party jam. Most of this album is a party jam with really sad lyrics. It also reminds me, mentioning Coca-Cola, a little bit of Max Headroom. I don't know if you know who Max Headroom was. He was this spokesperson and video art project by a guy named Matt Frewer from the 80s, who eventually became like a spokesperson for Coca-Cola, but started off as a sort of commentary on mass media and technology and its intersection with humanity. I think maybe because he worked for Coke, I could sort of see like just follow me here. I think if you spent a day listening to this album, and especially this song, and then you took a break and you read some Snow Crash, and then you watched some Max Headroom episodes, you'd be in this whole kind of interesting world of sort of virtual reality, deep fake, artificial intelligence, what is human, what is not. It's great. And this line, is it fun on your own, just you and your mobile phone? Again, that's one of the themes. This is my empty case because I'm using my phone to film right now. And then it goes on to Jennifer. And there is a definite split in the album. After Jennifer, things change a little bit. There's this is a real album. And I think if I'm going to be sitting with it, I'm getting it in the mail in like 5 days. I think I'm going to see more. There's a sort of movement. There's this kind of like party jam. And then we get to this song Jennifer, which I've already discussed, which is a little bit more personal. Then we get to the song Metroland is Burning, which is a great intersection of guitars and sequencers. And this whole song is apparently about something inside of a mall that was called Metroland. It was like an amusement park inside of a mall. So it's maybe like this kind of pizza boy. If Pizza Boy is embracing consumerism, this is about rejecting consumerism. And we're sort of always at war with consumerism. That's just our permanent war that we're all in. What I find interesting about this song is it almost seems like a satire of 80s pop. It sort of reminds me of The Night Begins to Shine by BER, which was for the Teen Titans Go TV show. It was an imitation of 80s pop. It reminds me a little bit of Comedy Bang Bang. There's a character who's called Martin Sheffield Lickley who writes these British 80s pop songs. All aboard the ship of love. Look it up. I'll include a link in the description. It's some of the funniest music parodies you'll ever hear. But the way that he sings, "These are the rules of the game" in this song, it feels almost like a parody of 80s British pop music. But then it's more developed, super peppy, great guitar work that just punctuates there's this detuned sound, detuned sound to the guitars at the end of each sort of phrase. And then the instrumental bit has this detuned sound. It's just great. And this has the first direct reference to this character of Kevin, who I guess is burning down Metroland, and who I also assume is the pizza boy, but I don't want to get too into that. Coming up next is Leviathan. This is where a whole different theme. So we kind of started off with this kind of like party zone teletype virtual world. Then we start to get into the lore of who Jennifer and Kevin might be. And then there's an entire aquatic theme. It's out of focus, but you can see a poster there. I'll show it at the end of the video maybe, of a big shark. And there's this sort of like shark theme. I mean, a leviathan isn't a shark. It usually refers to a whale, but it's like a very large creature, usually a sea creature. What I love about this is that this is a very necessary down-tempo song, and the album needs this at this point. It's very sultry, it's very soulful. I don't know if this is on purpose. I don't know how good this band is. Can you tell me, is the band as good as this album makes them seem? What else should I listen to if I think this is just so good? The way that the first two, this is gonna get philosophical. You get a degree in poetry. The way that these words sound at the beginning of the song is how the song musically feels. Cool night, and it moves so slowly, slithering and slithering and slithering among us. The song itself feels like those words slithering and slithering and slithering among us. It's an amazing trick. Slightly like auto-tuned, like sounding pre-chorus before this like really cool guitar lead. And it does this cool thing where this guitar lead plays this little melody. And then it goes to another verse. And then later the chorus comes in, and the chorus is that guitar lead. It's that little instrumental break that was right after the first verse. That becomes to where the notes that he sings match the guitar perfectly. It's almost like foreshadowing. Apparently this idea of Leviathan is tied into death. He says on here that this like the tentacles of death, and it represents coming after you. He claims that the chorus is a eulogy. Maybe it is. It's repeated over and over. I don't usually drink or cough on camera, but like I said, it's been a funny week. Shark Week. Great title. I don't like this song. It's almost a trap beat. Kind of like these kind of nice grunts in the back. Apparently he like usually sends the guy who wrote the song, maybe the lead singer, sends demos like this that sound kind of hip-hoppy, and then the band turns them into indie pop. But here they just left it like this. I just don't really care for this mode. It's just, I don't know. The lyrics, Obama in the streets, but he thinks he's Osama in the sheets. Nope. I just don't like it. I mean, it's fine. I do like the final lyric, "I won't let me die." But in general, I think this is the only song on the album which I think is a definitive skip and is just not very good. Fortunately, the next song is called Cut Up. It's a little bit more developed. These odd rising synthesizers. This has the kind of relaxed feel of the previous song, but it just, I don't know, to me it hits better. Very kind of silly lyrics. Lyrics like gaslight, petabyte, bullet in the megalodon. So again, we had Leviathan, Shark Week, and Megalodon. We have these multiple figures of aquatic death, which again is like, it's this deep fake thing where I'm not going to be able to provide you a direct analysis of what everything means, but it all sort of in there, like you feel like you're in this cyber ocean with many figures of death. Of course, again, feels almost like a satire of 80s catchy songs. Like you could put this to like a montage of like people trying on funny hats in a movie, and it would work quite well. And then we get to the fact that the song is called Cut Up. Oh boy. Cut Up. So Cut Up is actually a style of poetics. Borrowed from the French, sort of perfected by William Burroughs. It's like taking words and cutting them up and putting them together, thunder, to make a poem. And that's the thing, you know? Like, that's sort of what AI does. I have another sentence that my notes app created. Without the internet, you will have to wait until the end of the second. Not bad. These kind of like the sense of meaning of language, of human beings creating meaning through the semiotics and the signs of words, has been destructed going back to the Dadaists in the early 20th century. So it's cool and interesting because his lyrics have this cut-up feeling where it seems like sometimes he's just taking words and gluing them together. Now, he's not the only person to do this. David Bowie did this. Tom York does this all the time. I do want to spend a little bit of time because if you read on the internet about this style of poetry, they give all the credit to Burroughs and very little credit to the Dadaists who were working in France in the early 20th century. This is just an Anglophone thing, you know. We need to remember Zara, Tzara. He was a Romanian-French poet who wrote poems that would really fit really well into this album. Like he had an entire compilation of poems called Approximate Man. Are you trying to tell me that couldn't be a secondary title to this album? Mouvement, gagarisme astronomique, vibre, 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 vibre dans la gorge métallique des auteurs. Ton âme est verte et météorologique, empereur, et mes oreilles sont des torches végétales. Astronomical gargling vibrates, vibrates, vibrates in the metallic throat of the heights. Your soul is green, is meteorological emperor, and my ears are vegetable torches. It's silly, but you find the meaning in there. Like there is meaning in a meteorological emperor, and you have to sort of create it. Like there's an automatic component to a lot of data art, a lot of modern art, to a lot of computer-generated art. You see the parallels? 100 years apart, but it's a similar thing. How much are human beings going to allow automatic processes to take over our creative process? Whether that be transcribing dreams, combining words without thought, or allowing a computer to generate. Good. I think that came through. I was nervous. I always get nervous when I talk about poetry on this channel, because whatever. Next song is called Hex. It's a great dance hall beat. So it seems almost like they're kind of going through all these different kind of modern rhythms, but he even delivers the lyrics in sort of a robotic dance hall cadence. In the Hoodoo Mall, you take the aerosol, it's where the lamprey lies. It ate a lot of French fries. Lamprey, again, we're in this whole underwater zone. A great kind of metallic guitar line that punctuates the chorus. And the guitar work on this instrumental break is just so great. I really, if you've listened to this album a lot, do your best to listen to it and only focus on the guitar. I'm trying to think, like, when's the last time I heard guitar work this good? I mean, I guess the guitar work was really good on the Smile, but it is really, really good guitar work. The next song is called My Computer. Hey, you want to talk about sex robots? This is about how computers are our lovers. That's what it's about. It says your place or mine. And not only does every musician have a virtual sex robot, that thunder is pretty wild. It's a good thing I'm not at my house, or else Toby would be going crazy. I'm his thunder buddy. So, like, in a way, every human being has a sex robot. I mean, a computer is a sex robot with its access to pornography, its access to all sorts of sexual satisfaction and levels of sexual inquiry and sexual exploration. A computer is our lover. For a lot of us, statistically, most people who watch this could realistically say that their computer is their lover. And why not sing about it? Why not? Because it's embarrassing to look at porn or read erotic literature? No, not embarrassing. The vast majority of us do it. And there it is here in this whole idea of the intersection between humanity and technology. I love this chorus. The way he sings this line, you're in love with the future and I don't know why. Again, it's like this little, a truly great album, which it turns out this probably is. A truly great album is consistent and has like strong atmosphere all the way through, great dynamism within that consistency so that you never get bored, but it has to have little moments that just pop out and you just go, oh my God, that's so awesome. God, so good. Just because it's on my mind, going back to In Rainbows, the drum line on Reckoner, there's a certain part where there's a double on the ride, ting ting, that moment. Oh, you need that for an album to be that way. And the way, God, this thunder's getting crazy. The way that he sings, you're in love with your future and I don't know why, just is there. It reminds me a little bit of Patricia Taxon, reminds me a little bit of Porter Robinson, but it's almost unexpected the way it shows up. The verse has a slight vocoder sound, and in that way it reminds me a little bit of Neil Young's album Trans, which, not coincidentally, I bring up because that is another great album about the interaction between humans and technology. If you've never heard Trans by Neil Young, that's way up there on my list of albums you have to hear. It came out in like 1981. He got sued by his record company. Because the album was so avant-garde, because it didn't sound like what else he did. But he had 2 kids that had major developmental disabilities, and the only way he could speak to them was through a computer. So he made this album about communicating with his children through a computer. And the song, Transformer Man, find it. The original version, not the unplugged version. Brussels sprouts. Not the unplugged version. Like the real version. He uses this vocoder and he sounds like a robot. And it's this interaction between how can we do that? And that's what we're trying to figure out. Like how can we have more human interaction through computers? Another great instrumental break of great interest with a cute outro. Then we get into the song Kevin's Car, which immediately is clearly part 2 of the song Jennifer. It turns out that's what they say too, but I heard this and the first time I heard it, I'm like, oh, this is just Jennifer part 2. The singing, the atmosphere, this kind of weird, almost African guitar and almost Paul Simon singing. There's like an odd warmth. The whole album is oddly warm for an album that is apparently about disaffection and all that. It's oddly warm. And especially this line, sleeping in the back of your car. And okay, he talks about war. And I guess if you read this album as a narrative, there could be like some kind of car accident. Like these people are dying and the Leviathans are getting to them. I don't know. I like to take each song individually when possible. And the image of sleeping in the back of a car implies such vulnerability and trust that it's gorgeous. Over the last couple years, there have been 2 songs, one by Adrienne Lenker and one by 21 Pilots, which both tie into this. And it's really true. Think about who you would be comfortable sleeping in the car while they drive. That feeling of comfort, of intimacy, is spectacular. And that's what we have here. Another amazing instrumental break for another repetition of the chorus. Born Under a Meteor is another one, which is not one of my favorites. This sounds like the most like Coldplay. I don't know, maybe it's the organic drums. You know, it's not a drum machine, the actual drums being played on the toms and the rims. But it doesn't suck. It's a good song. The chorus is like basically Take On Me by a-ha. Again, I think the discussion here, I do think there's a conversation being had with British music from the 80s. I guess they were Swedish. Were they? I don't remember. But there's like a discussion with pop music from the 80s and like that kind of 80s sound. The sweet guitar and swirling synths. Lucky me, lucky me, lucky me. I can't go any further than that. But then there's also like a pedal steel, and then the way he sings these words, born under a meteor, are actually very similar to the way Tom York sings them. So he has so much vocal range. I wonder what this album would be like if there were more songs like this one on the album. I don't know. It's interesting. Again, another great instrumental break with a wonderful guitar that's a setup for a repeat of the chorus. The album ends with Software Great Man, and this is very clearly one of those titles that came from artificial intelligence, and this is that connection between cut-up Dadaist poetry and modern AI poetry. Software Great Man is a beautiful word. It's like just those words together, Software Great Man. You know what it means and you don't know what it means. It's this beautiful, gentle and sweet outro with like this pulsing synthesizers and these like very chopped up loops. And here it seems to be the thesis statement of the album. It's about trauma that never leaves. Weird lyrics like maybe I'm a cat inside of a sacred cow. I don't know. And then just repeating over and over again, I don't know how to get over this thing because it's always there. It's just a beautiful line. Just that's true poetry. You know? I don't know how to get over this because it's always there. You can't get out of it through technology. You can't get out of it by getting drunk on a Friday night or Saturday night. You just have to live with this trauma. And we are all, as I wrote in my annual report, every single one of my students is to a certain degree suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder due to the lockdown. Of varying degrees. But I, as a professor, am on the front line of helping people through that. I have to be like a pseudo-psychologist all the time in my job. We need more albums like this, more people talking about the lockdown, talking about alienation, talking about being alone with your phone, talking about trauma, and the way these things all connect. The way the vocals are here, again, I keep going back to Radiohead, but this is a high compliment. You know, like my favorite band. The way the way it's cut up, it reminds me of the kind of King of Limbs era vocal manipulation. And then just the outro, this beautiful software, great man, software, great man. Oh, are you a gambling man? Are you a gambling man? A gambling man. A beautiful outro with a sweet little computer sound at the end. So that's my review. But the highest compliment I can give an album is to actually take my Patreon's money and buy it. So it's on its way. Thank you so much for suggesting it. Thank you to my Patreons. These are my... Wait, can you even read this now because of the stupid cinematic thing? Oh, God, maybe you can't read it. You can read that, right? What if I go closer? No, you can't. Okay. Well, I guess... No, you can read that. Well, tell me if you can read that. Anyways, these are my Patreons. I printed it out here at my office so you can actually read them. And they give me money, and then I take that money and I buy music with it. Here, I'll show you this. Let's see that too. Click un vivant. In Marseille, when I lived there, this was just hanging on a sign, and I tore it down. I think it's a pretty good example of what the album's like. Okay. Well then, as my final goodbye, I will just end this video. God damn. I don't have a raincoat. There's a camera.